Howdy, howdy, howdy. So I wanted to do this video for a while around this idea of letting it go, letting things go. So as I'm working on my paintings, I've really had to work on letting it go, letting the painting go, letting myself go, and just allow things to just develop as they do. So, and that's a difficult thing to do, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of dedication, and it takes a lot of of stepping back from myself and from the painting and just allowing it to be what it is. So, but for me, there's also a relational component to this whole idea of letting it go. And let me get into that a little bit here. So there's a couple different ways you can deal with relationships in your life. You can spend a lot of time talking things out, right? And that's great, and you should have excellent communication. But sometimes that's not enough, because sometimes you just keep coming back to the same subject and the same ideas and the same problems or the same situations, and you just keep talking to them and talking to them and talking to them. At some point, you have to be able to let it go. But letting it go doesn't mean you're just taking it from over here and hiding it over here so you can bring it out later. No, letting it go means you let it go and it's gone and you don't have to think about it anymore. And it doesn't exist anymore, right? You've let it go. It's gone. Poof. Right? You don't bring it back. You're not hiding it. You know, you're not holding it away someplace so you can bring it back out, throw it at your partner, throw it at your spouse or whoever it is. No. You let it go. And I think that's a difficult concept, you know. And when I'm working on my painting, I have that same concept of letting things go, just allowing things to develop on their own, allowing things to just come into their own, especially with a painting or with myself, you know. And I don't hold things back. I may have to circle back around and come back to something, you know, in the painting, but I have to also let it go and let it to be what it is, right? And I can't have any of those preconceived ideas. I can't have any of those concepts of what I want the painting to be. I have to allow it to just to expand on its own, to explore on its own. So this relational thing though, so I want to go back to this. Now, my background is in Christianity. I have degrees in theology and philosophy and biblical studies, and so a lot of my concepts and a lot of my processing is taken out of that context. Now, I feel like I've grown a long ways from that, but I think there's a lot of really powerful stories, a lot of very powerful biblical stories too. And one of the first biblical stories is the story of Adam and Eve. Now, if you think about this story, and you spend much time not thinking about it in the sense of historically or you know, not thinking about it in the sense of like, oh, was Adam and Eve real? Did they really exist? Were they really the first people? Okay, let's not get into that. Let's not even worry about that, okay? It's not even worth really thinking about too much. We could take the story metaphorically or allegorically or like as an archetype or as you know, a metaphor. We can take it as a myth. So, you know, we can take this story of Adam and Eve. Now let's think about this for a minute, okay? So they have the perfect life, right? Now imagine your perfect life. Imagine what that life would be, okay? For you, what is your perfect life? What exactly, how do you want to spend your time? How do you want to spend your days? Who do you want to be with? Where do you want to be? You know, how are you provided for? So Adam and Eve had that, right? So they had this perfect life. They were in this garden. They had all their needs taken care of. They had each other. They had great company. They had one command, right? Now this is an interesting thing. And one of these days I'm going to do a story on the power of saying no, because saying no sets up boundaries and it sets up. Anyways, that's not what this one's about. This one's about letting things go. So Adam and Eve, they have the perfect life. One of them or both of them made a poor choice, a bad decision, and they did the thing they weren't supposed to do. And it jeopardized their perfect existence, their perfect life, right? And because of that decision, they were booted out of the Garden of Eden. Their perfect life, they lost it all, right? Now, I think that's kind of a real asshole thing for God to do right there, you know? Just, that's a whole nother conversation, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But Adam and Eve, they lost it. They had the perfect life and they lost it. Now think about that psychologically. What does that do to a person when you have everything you could ever dream of, right? Now, since they had nothing to compare it to, they'd never really been in the outside world. They'd only grown up in this perfect world. They didn't know how hard they were going to have to work. They didn't know what was at jeopardy. So that's why I kind of think it was an asshole thing for God to kick him out. He should have like given him like a probation, like, look, go out and work your ass off for a while and see what it's like compared to what you have, and then we'll talk, okay? Kind of like the whole prodigal son thing, you know? And then we can talk about what your real punishment should be. Not just like, here's your perfect life, but you don't know any better. Now, boom, here you go. You guys screwed up. You lost it all. That's not cool. So, anyways, once they were kicked out of the garden and they're bumming around now out there in the real world, and they have to really work and strive and sweat and go through all those miseries of life, you know, like the rest of us do, were they able to let it go? Or did it eat at them? Was it that constant bickering in their relationship, that fighting, that hey, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, no, it's your fault, we had it perfect, but you screwed it up, no, you screwed it up. You know, that whole bickering thing, did it just chew on them psychologically? Or were they able to let it go and just say, hey, this is our lot in life now, man, we made a poor choice and now we got to suffer with it? You know, what was their psychological? But here's the next level to that. So they had a couple kids, Cain and Abel, right? Did Cain and Abel, were they raised in a family of this constant bickering and this constant fighting about the perfect life that they lost because of a poor choice? Is that the role model they had growing up? Think about that for a little bit. Just think about the psychology in there for a little while, you know? And just really kind of really get into that a little bit, that psychology there of how we raise our kids. I have kids, you know, and am I doing a good job? Am I doing a bad job? Time will tell. I'm trying to do the best job I can. And I know I've screwed up a lot and probably set a really, really poor example, especially early on with my first wife and my daughter. And man, I you know, so I'm trying really hard to do a better job this time. And part of that is letting go of the poor choices I made before and making better choices, and not letting those things just gnaw and destroy the relationship I'm in right now, and just letting things go, you know. But that means I'm not taking that and hiding it away and then gonna pull it out later, you know. That's so hard. Like as an artist, we struggle with that. We struggle with those imperfections. We struggle with those wanting the accolades or the approval of our peers, or the approval, you know, when we sell a painting, we're like, woohoo, somebody actually likes it. Somebody thinks there's some value here, you know? Somebody really appreciated this. And so we struggle a lot with that. And it's deep in here. It's deep in here and it's deep in here, you know? And so we really work with that a lot, especially in our painting time and in our creative times. I think for a lot of artists, it really comes down to that, of just exploring their own depths, finding your own meaning. And that might be conceptual, it might be emotional, it might be expressive, it might be the type of content we bring to our work and the type of work we want to do. That's all in there, you know, it's all in there. So back to this story. If Adam and Eve, they made a poor choice, they lost it all, they're struggling in life. And then they have these kids, Cain and Abel. And they have this deep psychology, you know, that's running this drama, this trauma, this it's relational, but it's generational. Now their kids are being raised in this household, and what kind of language is Adam and Eve using about God or spirituality or even their own lives? You know, what kind of language are they using about who they are as people? You know, oh, I'm a screw up, man. I'm a failure, man. I lost it all. I had it all, and it was a perfect life, and man, I just really screwed up, man. And you know, were they always down on themselves? Was that the language they were using in the household, that they were always beating themselves up, or they just, you know, kind of, do they rise above that, you know? So we see this relationship, Cain and Abel, and of course, you know, Cain ends up killing Abel. So can we read into that? Does that come from his childhood? You know, that whole wanting of approval thing, you know? That's why he killed Abel, because God approved of Abel and not Cain. And Cain's like, screw that, man. I'm going to kill that guy then. You know, got pissed off, got jealous, killed him. So, but does that come from his childhood? Was that ingrained in him from a young age, from his parents and their failure in the garden? you know? And so now it's a generational thing. And he runs off after he kills his brother and has a confrontation with God. He runs off and finds a city, and there's a whole other theology there about where'd that city come from. But anyways, um, you know, and kind of sets himself up in a little kingdom there, right? But he's a murderer, and he continues along that trend, murdering people. You know, is he able to let it go? Is this ingrained in him now? Is it going to be ingrained in his kids and 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 his kids? You know, so this whole generational thing. My wife and I were having this conversation. She's doing a lot of this stuff with this thing called brain spotting, and it's this kind of this new psychological method where it's really interesting. You go look her up and find out about it. Heather Corbett, and just go check it out. It's really cool stuff. It's really cool stuff. But she's working with this generational stuff, you know. And there's this idea of generational trauma, because and we were talking about this last night. So when she was inside her mother's womb, so when a woman is born, all the eggs that she has in her already, right? So she does not develop eggs over time. They're already within her when she's born. You're born with all the eggs you're going to possibly conceive in your lifetime. So she had those eggs while she was inside her mom, right? And her mom, so Heather as an egg existed in her mom when she was born out of her grandmother. So that's 3 generations right there, all interconnected. They were all interconnected, right? So that if you think about that, that's really trippy. It's really strange. Like, you know, I was an egg inside my mom while my mom was inside my grandmother. Just think about that for a minute, right? So whatever is happening to my grandmother, like, you know, drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, it's affecting my mom, but it's also affecting me because I'm an egg inside of her, right? That's just, if you think about that, that just really starts to blow your mind, and that kind of generational trauma that happens, right? And then once you're born into a situation where you have all this other psychological trauma that's happening, possibly, potentially, you know. Hopefully people are getting better and they're working on it and they're trying to raise their children in a better way and overcoming a lot of this, right? So how does this all relate back to letting go? Well, if in life you're not able to let things go and they continue to stew and brew, they're going to have a physical impact on you, the stress you carry in your body, the psychological trauma you carry in your body. It affects your joints, it affects your musculature, it affects your bones, everything, right? It affects all your cells. That as a woman can carry into your children as you become pregnant, right? It can carry into your relationships, the way in which you raise your children, the way in which you have relationships with your co-workers, your bosses, your neighbors, your friends, your family. I mean, it carries into all of that, right? So being able to let that go and really just drop it and not be holding on to it, but let it go. It opens up room in your life for peace. It opens up room in your life for improvement, for life, right? And for me, a big part of that is in my painting. Being able to let things go comes out here physically as well. So if I can't let things go and I come into my studio and I'm all amped up from work, or I'm all amped up from a fight I had in a relationship, or I can't stop thinking about something and it's just ruminating and I can't let it go, then I can't paint. I have to really work hard and dig through that to be able to get in to start doing my painting. So I'm gonna break away and I'm gonna do a little painting right now, and so you can all see it, okay? All right. So let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. Just gotta let it go. I'm gonna start this one with a little bit of yellow here. I'm gonna put a nice light yellow down first. We get a nice lot of motion into this here. Nice yellow base. Get it worked in real good here. Don't want to overwork it. I want to try to keep some of the... I think what I might do here is put a couple layers down. I'm just going to get this done real quick here. I like using this brush because it leaves these nice heavy brush strokes, which I think adds a lot of dynamics to the picture. And especially on a base like this, I think it's really going to be quite astounding. But I think what I want to do is I want to kind of get a little bit of variation in the tone here. So I kind of like this yellow. Ooh, let's get that off there. So let's get a little bit of that yellow on there, and I'm going to do a couple other yellows on here too. There we go. Just to kind of get some different tonal patterns. That helps to add a little bit of kind of depth, you know. Kind of your eye catches different stuff, picks up on it. And the human mind is so interesting. It likes to find things it knows. And so, like, if you've ever been in another country that you don't speak the language, you swear you hear words that you know. You like you'll hear your name called, or somebody will be talking and you'll be like, wait, did they just say Taco Bell? Or did they just say, you know, some word that you're familiar with? Like, the brain wants to make that sense out of it. I think that's looking a little bit better. I like that. Okay, now this is gonna be a pour painting, so I'm gonna throw some colors down here. Get them shooken up real good. And I think I want to kind of do a pretty heavy pour. The last couple of paintings I did just kind of a light pour. I just kind of did some stripes, you know, and I kind of like that, but I think on this one I want to do something a little bit heavier. So I'm going to do just kind of all over here. And I like doing it this way instead of like pouring it and then spreading it. So sometimes when you spread it, you know, when you're doing the spreading, you get those lines and then it looks like a firework, or it looks like I don't know. I find I like this look better, and other people have different ideas, you know, and plus you can kind of control it a little bit more, which isn't always a good thing. Let's see, I did that one and this one. Gotta keep track of what I got down here. And a little bit of this one here. I always try to mix these up beforehand. I try to keep them mixed all the time because I know what will happen is I'll be doing a painting like this, and all of a sudden another color will strike me. I'm like, oh, you know what? It needs a little orange, or it needs a little splash of red. And then if I don't have it prepped ready to go, then all of a sudden I'm out, you know? I don't know if I was thinking about doing yellow, but with that yellow background, we'll wait and see. So these are gonna be my two heavy ones, I think. And we'll see what happens here. I think over here, I'm gonna do a little pink squiggly, and maybe a little pink squiggly along here. Yeah, I have this big open spot right here that I don't have much yet, so I'm gonna fill that in as well. But I'm gonna come back to that in just a minute. Tie these pinks together, and I think I've kind of left this channel right here with not a whole lot in it, and I need to figure out exactly what I want to do with that area. I think I'm going to do a light color, do this white through here. And if I do that white and then I come back through with some yellow, Yeah, I'm kind of liking the way that looks. But I do think I want to add something. I'm missing something here. I gotta think about it. Let's see. Do 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 do. Okay, and now I'm gonna take my trusty little swooper, and I've been using this really big one here, which has been really nice because then I can kind of cover the whole thing. But I think this one I want to go a little bit smaller. Sometimes I'll use this one, and then if I want to do just really small little areas. But I think I'm going to use this one right now, so I can kind of come across the whole thing and kind of figure out. I think I want to do a swipe like this, and one like this, and then maybe back the other way with this one, or maybe. I got to think about this for a minute. You know, it takes a little bit of thought here. I do think I like this idea though. So I think I'll start here. Come around this way. Come around this way. Come back up. I've got such a heavy yellow down first that you can kind of see I'm picking it up and pulling it with it, which is good, which is fine. Yeah, I think I want to do that. I ended up pulling a lot of this green up with it though. That's all right. I think I'm going to come off this way now. Now, of course, you know, hear this a lot, but there's always a chance of overworking it. I think what I want to do is come back through here. See, that yellow and that yellow just really didn't pull it off for me the way I was hoping it would. So I think I'm going to do a little bit of something else in here. Pulling that up some. And no. We're going to kind of frame it in a little bit with some black. This isn't always a good idea. Alright. Now let's try it one more time. We're going to come this way with it this time though. So you see you're working with the piece, you're putting the colors down, but there's so much going on here that I have no control over. And I have to let that go. I can't be worried about it. I can't start nitpicking this one little section, because in doing that, it's going to end up cascading out and affecting everything else. You can always come back through later and rework sections you don't like. And as an artist, that's my prerogative. I get to do that. The painting doesn't dictate everything. It's a relationship and it's a give and take. Okay? But I have to let things go. So, hope that makes sense. Thank you for joining me. Have yourself a great day, and I'll see you next time.